Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Vicki Johnson, the founder at ProFellow, and I'm really pleased to be here today to give a free application workshop for the Mind Trust School Fellowship, which is an incredible 2-year opportunity for U.S. K-12 school leaders to have this chance to come to Indianapolis and start or relaunch a school. And we're very excited to be working with the Mind Trust to help promote, share, and give application tips for this award. On this event, we do have Paula Glover. She's the Director of Recruitment, and she's here to answer any questions that I might not be able to answer. But what we will do today is go through some key application tips. We'll look through the application form. And I'm also going to give some of my own special sauce strategies for creating a truly standout application. So there will be some time for questions at the end, and we'll also have a replay for folks if you're coming in late or watch this later. So thank you everyone for being here. My full name is Dr. Vicki Johnson. You can call me Vicki. I'm the founder at ProFellow. I've done several fellowships myself, although not one like the Mind Trust, but I've done fellowships in the field of public health and public policy. And I like to call myself a career adventurer because these fellowship opportunities are a really unique chance to get experiences that you wouldn't typically get in a normal job or in just the regular course of your career. And the Mind Trust School Fellowship is no exception. If you're not familiar with my organization, ProFellow, we are the leading online resource for information on professional and academic fellowships. We have a massive free funding database at ProFellow where you can find fellowships just like the Mind Trust School Fellowship. Inside, you can find professional fellowships that would fund unique experiences or full-time work placements, as well as academic fellowships. And education is one of the key discipline areas for which there are many, many interesting and unique fellowship opportunities. But today we're going to get focused on the Mind Trust School Fellowship. And here is the agenda for this workshop. Number one, we're going to give some information about the Mind Trust, the organization. Secondly, we'll go through the specific details of the Mind Trust School Fellowship. Then I'm going to go give an overview of the Mind Trust School Fellowship application, including the statement of intent, which is due January 9th, 2023. We'll talk about some of the key focus areas in the application. We'll give some key tips on what to do as you prepare that statement this in the coming months. I'm going to give my 3 key tips to a winning proposal from ProFellow, and we'll talk about some additional resources to access over the coming weeks as you're preparing your application. Just a note for this presentation, the Mind Trust School Fellowship is a fellowship for United States-based K-12 education professionals. So the Q&A during this workshop will be specifically focused on the Mind Trust School Fellowship. I will not be providing guidance on other fellowships and awards, but if you're looking for other opportunities, be sure to visit profellow.com for more information. All right, so let's get into it. So I always start with the mission of the funding body. And the mission of the Mind Trust is that they invest in public education to transform lives in neighborhoods across Indianapolis. They work with their community toward a day when race and income are no longer predictors of life outcomes. So this is the overarching end goal of the Mind Trust. And through this mission, they have a number of different fellowships and programs and initiatives that they run in order to achieve this overarching mission. A little history about the Mind Trust and the School Fellowship. In 2006, former Indianapolis Mayor Bart Peterson and David Harris founded the Mind Trust to help Indianapolis think bigger about education. And since then, the Mind Trust has done a number of things. Number one, they've supported the launch of 45 public schools in Indianapolis through our school fellowships and through their capacity building awards. They've built a comprehensive strategy of support for existing schools and educators. They've also deepened community engagement efforts to work with families and neighborhoods to help them advocate for the change that they want to see in their education system. And they've solidified a commitment to becoming an anti-racist organization and invested in programs and initiatives to support their organization, Indianapolis schools, and nonprofits with the same goals. So this is a big and ongoing initiative of the Mind Trust. They have a big mission, a big goal, and they're seeking the right people to help them achieve their mission. If you want to read more about the Mind Trust and their mission, I strongly encourage you to read up on all of the background information about the Mind Trust at themindtrust.org, which is at this website here. They have an awesome website. They've got their stats. They've got information about what they've achieved. They have their mission statement, their values. This is always the best place to start when you are preparing an application, is to really fully and deeply understand the mission of the organization and its background. I check out who the staff are and look at all the resources as well. There's some great information here for all opportunities, educators, parents, community members, and policymakers. So about the Mind Trust Schools Fellowship specifically, and this was formerly known as the Innovation School Fellowship up until recently, so now it's just the Mind Trust School Fellowship. This is a nationally unique paid fellowship to spend 1 to 2 years preparing to lead a new public school in Indianapolis. Fellows receive personalized coaching, resources, and training throughout the program, as well as ongoing support once the schools are launched. Highlights of this program include national and international cohort trips to visit and learn from other high-performing innovative schools and educators, so that includes abroad. And fellows receive extensive expertise and feedback on school design and building process from an experienced team of people who have supported the launch of 45 public schools in Indianapolis. So this is a truly unique fellowship in that, you're not going to be undertaking this alone, but you're going to be surrounded by, a cohort of experts, community members, and other fellows who have done this work. And we've actually interviewed on Profellow 2 previous Mind Trust fellows, including Brandon House, who's the current fellow. I encourage you to check those out so you can really understand what's really and truly unique about this opportunity to work in Indianapolis. Now let's talk about eligibility. So for eligibility, first, candidates must be experienced US-based K-12 school leaders. So this means you are or have been in roles such as school principal, vice principal, dean, superintendent, CMO, head of schools, head teacher, or perhaps a private or charter school founder. So if you've been in one of these roles or currently in the role, you would be potentially a great fit for this opportunity, but you need to have some demonstrated experience successfully leading a school. And you should possess a vision for equitable, sustainable public school model for Indianapolis school students specifically. So this is kind of the overarching eligibility. And some of the characteristics that they're looking for this special leadership opportunity include team-based management experience, demonstrated success in raising student achievement outcomes, an ambitious focus on equity, an entrepreneurial approach to challenges, resilience, fortitude, and vision, and a research-grounded model with a clear and motivating mission. So if you have these elements, you would be a great candidate for this award. Now let's get into how to apply to this fellowship. So rather than a personal statement or kind of a full application, the first part of this process that you must go through is the statement of intent. And this statement of intent is where you will share your professional background, leadership story, and results from student achievement in previous or current roles. And the statement of intent must be submitted by January 9, 2023 by 11:59 Eastern Time in the online application portal. So the statement of intent is very much like other types of fellowship applications. It's just called a statement of intent. But I would encourage you to look at the document early, like now, so that you can get prepared and know what it is expected. So let's go through that now so that we can take a little peek at the application. Now in this here, I've put a link to the direct link to the application. You can also find that at the website. I have it open here on the computer. So this is 5 pages. And here's just a preview document. Now you will be filling this out inside the online application portal, but you probably will want to work on your application responses, separately in something like a Google Doc before putting it into the application portal, because there is going to be a number here of short answers and essay responses that may take you a little bit of time to work through. So don't expect that you'll be able to sit down and do this in one go. I would encourage you to open up that Google Doc. And so they've allowed you to be able to look at this before going into the online portal. And here's the 5 pages. So first and foremost, you're going to be choosing one of the following, either applying as an individual with a new school model, or applying to replicate or expand a school or model within an existing network. And throughout this, you're going to upload your resume. Be sure to make sure it's up to date. And if applicable, the resumes of your leadership team members as one bundled PDF. Now, you'll fill out some personal information. That's pretty common, professional information. And then we get into the real nitty-gritty of the statement of intent. So we're going to go through some of these. I'm going to go through these quickly, but then in the slides, I'm going to show you the areas that you should really focus some extra attention on. So first and foremost, you are going to write an essay about your leadership journey. You're also going to provide a short essay or response about your community leadership experience. So, and this is more of a list of leadership experiences, including your current role, formal or informal. In section 2, you're going to provide short responses about entrepreneurship, your experience starting a project or solving a problem in an innovative way. Make sure in this to describe your founding or change management experience. You'll also do a short essay on equity mindset. How do you define equity? Describe your philosophy on equity, why it matters in the design and execution of your school or existing school. You'll also do a short essay on community engagement. Describe how you have engaged authentically with your current community. How do you approach, or how will you approach, relationship building in Indianapolis? And you want to include examples here. In section 3, we're going to talk about student achievement. So if you intend to open a new school, you'll need to provide evidence of advancing student proficiency, including any pertinent school data that reflects advancing grade level proficiency across all student groups. And you'll have the opportunity to upload that evidence, those artifacts, to support your response to this question. If possible, include data that is disaggregated by race, gender, socioeconomic, and special education. Also include all pertinent discipline and attendance data. Also, if you're going to open a new school, you'll provide your goals for student growth and performance in the first 5 years of your school's launch. On the other hand, if you're planning to replicate or expand an existing school that's currently in Indianapolis, or kind of expand from a larger model, you'll again have to provide evidence that supports the need for expansion or replication of the pre-existing school or model. You'll provide your evidence of student proficiency and advancing that student proficiency. You'll provide the results that you've achieved at your school or schools and describe the 3 actions you took to achieve those results. And then finally, you'll provide your continued goals for student growth and performance in your existing schools, as well as the first 5 years of your new school's launch. Now, keep in mind, there's not necessarily any advantage to doing one or the other, but you do need to have evidence that supports what you're proposing. So, your choice of either one is really going to depend on what you have experience in and where you can show evidence of being able to successfully complete this proposal. So just keep that in mind. It's not, a big advantage either way. In the next parts, you're going to talk about ongoing opportunities. So this is where you talk about, do you have experience in a turnaround or restart setting? And here's where it's really defined. A restart is defined as closing one underperforming school and opening a new school to serve the same students, usually in the same building or under new management. And so you're going to talk about that if that's something that you've done before. So you may put yes or no. And then at the end, you're going to indicate your interest in being considered for the following within your school design. It could be a whole school restart. It could be autonomous charter model or replication. Or finally, you could say that you're open to all school models. Now, in this case, flexibility could be a good thing if you're able to be flexible here. But if you have a specific idea or only one type of role that you want to go into, that's fine. Just make sure that you indicate which one is most appropriate for your personal goals and what you hope to do. Now, for any of these, there's going to be additional information added. For whole school restart, you've got to describe your approach in restarting a school. If autonomous charter is what you're hoping to do, you got to describe your approach to launching the autonomous charter. And if you're not selected for the next steps for the fellowship, you also have an opportunity to indicate if you want to be considered for other leadership opportunities in the Indianapolis school system. So this is not just the be-all end-all for this school application. The Mind Trust actually oversees quite a lot of different opportunities, some of which may or may not be posted. These might be internal networks. So just applying to this award alone is a great step, building this network with the Mind Trust and all of their amazing opportunities from now and for the next several years. Now, like I said, I was going to go back and kind of go through on which of these areas in the application you should put special focus on. So let me hop back over to the slides. So first and foremost, that leadership journey, 1.2. Here you have to describe your leadership journey. Include all administrative and leadership experiences that serve as evidence that you are prepared to lead schools. Now, we'd really like you to lean in here and use specific examples. It's good to talk about why now. I want to mention that when I interviewed Brandon House, who is the current school fellow for the Mind Trust, he actually applied earlier in his career, didn't get into the fellowship, and then successfully reapplied after several years of experience in the New Orleans school district, setting up new schools. And so, it really just depends on, at what stage are you in your career? This could be the perfect time. But you want to describe that leadership journey and how did you get to where you are now? So make sure that you include details about, leading schools. You can talk about challenges that you've overcome. A good word length for this essay could be 1 to 2 pages. So put in those specific examples. Don't be vague. Make sure that you include those so that you can really make it clear to the selection committee the wide range of experiences that you had that leads to why right now. Another key focus area is that community leadership experience. So the Mind Trust is very actively engaged, with the broader and wider Indianapolis community. So it's not just about the individual schools. It's about engaging with networks, with neighborhoods, with parents, with policymakers. So if you have that type of experience, whether you're in Indianapolis or in other areas, make sure that you provide some of those community leadership experiences to show that you're working and doing things beyond just working in your jobs. So include both formal and informal roles. Volunteer community experience is also important. And I would recommend, listing those from your most significant experiences to your least significant, even if those are a little bit out of chronological order, and provide a little detail and examples of what that is. Another key focus area is entrepreneurship. So there is an entrepreneurial aspect, of course, to starting or relaunching a school. So you want to show any experience here that could show that you are entrepreneurial and solving problems in innovative ways. If you have some experience, you probably know what this means. What kind of challenges are you going to face? Financial challenges, policy challenges, even just location challenges. Think about what you've gone through, what you've done to help overcome challenges that have come across. Also, if you do have any financial modeling experience, be sure to mention that here. Financial modeling, of course, is an important part of any initiative. How do we fund this? How do we sustain funding? What do we do if funding is cut? If you have that financial modeling experience, make sure to include that here. But again, this is about showing how do you solve problems with limited resources and difficult policies and other external challenges that are outside of your control. That's the case that you want to make in this essay. Another key focus area is the equity mindset. So the selection committee wants to know, how do you define equity? And you want to describe your philosophy on equity and why it matters in the design and execution of your school and existing school. Now, a key tip for this is not really about your personal experience with equity or inequity, or about, personal viewpoints about racism or other challenges. What this really is about is how would you address equity from an institutional perspective? You're going to be leading a new school. So we suggest finding an example of an organizational diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, and then consider, what would your DEI statement say and why for your school? So really try to think about it from that institutional perspective. Another key focus area is student achievement. So you need to provide evidence of advancing student proficiency. Now, this is going to be a key thing. If you don't have a lot of school leadership experience, you might find this a little bit challenging. But these exercises really help to determine, are you at the right stage in your career for this type of award? This is truly a leadership experience. So make sure to provide as much numerical data as you can. So this is data on things like reduction of dropout rates, improved test scores, more student employment or services, or more special programming. If your leadership experience is from years ago and there's been a gap or a break, or maybe you worked in another industry for a while, you still need to do your due diligence and try to get some data. So make sure you try to get a support letter, parent testimonials, or maybe support from other colleagues who have worked in the area of your school. You have to get something because everyone needs evidence to prove that they have done the things that they're going to do. So as much data as you can get, the better. Another key focus areas is providing your goals for student growth and performance in the first 5 years of your school's launch. Now, in this case, the goals should be challenging. They should be aspirational, but they also need to be achievable. So don't go overboard. You may need to do some background research to really get an understanding of what is the baseline. Where would you be starting from in regards to performance metrics and challenges of the current student population? And the Mind Trust does have this information on their website. One of this is the Credo study. Let me just pull that up real quick. You can find this right here. It's called the Mind Trust /Indie Credo. And there is some up-to-date data and information here on academic achievement and growth challenges. So, take some time to look through this so you can think about, where would I be starting from as a fellow? And then what would I want the goals to be? And of course, think about, what are the things that you're good at and where would you really be focusing your attention to achieve those goals? I would encourage you to be somewhat specific about what you hope to do, but do base it on this data. You want to show that you've done some research, some background research, especially if you have never worked in the Indianapolis area. If you're coming from the outside districts, outside states or regions, you really should show some knowledge of what's happening in Indianapolis. But, you can even go beyond just the Credo study. Talk to the Mind Trust staff. Talk to the current teachers and fellows. There's lots and lots of opportunities. I'm going to talk about office hours events coming up. But don't hold back on, making sure that you inform yourself before getting started on this exercise. Another key focus area is, explaining, do you have experience in a turnaround or restart setting? Of course, if it's yes, make sure that you discuss the role that you had. Now, if you were in a lower end role in a restart setting, let's say you weren't the leader of the restart, but you were there, just make sure that you're specific about what was your role, what was your contribution, how did you contribute to this larger initiative, but don't leave that out. Don't leave it open to guessing. Now, a couple of key tips as you prepare your statement of intent. Like I said, when I opened up the application, make sure that you work on your essays fully before adding it to the online application portal, because you do have to submit it in one sitting. It doesn't save, as far as I know. Is that right, Paula? We want to make sure that
it does. We updated the system, so now it saves, Dr. Vicki.
Oh, good. Okay, so good. That is like the worst feeling ever when you start to put it in and you're working away in there. and then it gets deleted. But in any case, you really want to polish these essays before popping it into the online system. So just in case there's any technical difficulties, I still would recommend doing that. But a good thing is that you can start with, the basic, get your application open, started, make sure that's working. You can put in your personal information in the online system and, that kind of key data. But we do recommend, work on your essays in a Google Doc, make sure those are polished, then you can copy and paste those in there just in case you have any technical difficulties. And then again, too, I mean, it's good to have your own copies of the responses that you inserted, for the interview processes and other things. Another key tip is that now there isn't really any, like, I think the word count, the absolute limit is like 10,000 words, but that doesn't mean you should put in 10,000 words for every essay. And ideally, these responses are 1.5 to 2 pages per section. And Paul is going, amen. So just keep in mind, the selection committee is going to be reading a lot of applications. You want to be succinct, to the point, use lots of examples, ideally 1.5 to 2 pages. If it goes into 3 pages, that's okay. But try to make your point in some shorter essays. Also include an up-to-date resume. I see this in all industries. Sometimes if you've been working in, let's say you've been working in the same school system for 8 years, you might not have updated your resume for 8 years because that was the last time you applied for a new position. Don't submit the 8-year-old resume. Make sure your current resume reflects your current title, your current achievements. I would even recommend including in there some of your key achievements. If you've stayed in the same school or same system for a long time, show that progression of leadership titles, put in some student achievement stats in there, add in any extra skills and volunteer related experience, volunteer experience, community experience. Make sure it's up to date. This is just a great exercise to do each year, is to have that up to date resume. And then finally, tip number 4, the Mind Trust holds regular office hours for questions, and there's tons of dates. So you might even get into an office hours and get, these folks all to yourself. So Paula, who's here with us, Director of Recruitment and Project Management, do not be afraid to ask Paula questions, introduce yourself. In fact, personally, I would highly recommend that you do. You can come to, there's many, many, many dates and times where you can drop into Zoom and talk through what you're proposing, ask questions about the current student population, ask about what challenges the fellows maybe have experienced in the past. If there's any, if you have limited experience, you can also talk through, is this kind of the right fit for where I am at this stage of my career? You also might even find out about other opportunities that the Mind Trust is sharing. So I say pop your head into at least one, if not a few office hours as you're developing your application. As you can see, tons of dates and times available. Now, I'm going to talk about my own personal 3 keys to a standout application, my pro fellow strategies. And this is from helping people prepare exceptional applications at many different types of fellowships and opportunities. Now, this is a really unique, what I would call a professional fellowship, because you're going to be put into really a full-time working role, helping to restart schools. This is truly a leadership opportunity. You're going to have quite a bit of autonomy as you go into this. So let me just explain a few key things that I would recommend. Now, whenever you're creating a proposal like this one, you want to think about alignment, impact, and feasibility, what I call AIF. We go through these one by one. So alignment is that your proposal will advance the mission and goals of the funding body. So the funding body is the Mind Trust. So we want to make sure that we deeply understand the mission, what's important to the Mind Trust, what their goals are, and not just the very specific goals of the fellowship, but even the overarching goals of the organization and how this fits into the social impact that the Mind Trust is trying to make in the Indianapolis area. So you don't want to do this in a vacuum. This is not necessarily about your personal goals. This is truly about the social impact goals. So make sure you show that alignment in your application. Be sure to read up on the Mind Trust mission and history. the fellows that they previously selected. We even have some pro fellow interviews with those fellows, and school results that they've had. This information can really inform how you approach your proposal. So if you're not even sure if you want to do restart or expansion, this kind of background research can really help you to think through, where are the needs and where can I contribute? What am I good at? This is a key factor. Next one is impact. So you want to make sure your proposal shows the potential for tangible social impact. And actually, unlike some fellowship applications, they really do ask you to put in your goals. What are the short-term goals? But I would also have you consider, what are the long-term goals? So even beyond your 2-year fellowship, what would you hope would be the legacy of your work during this fellowship? So be sure to express in detail both the immediate goals, what you'd be doing in that 2-year period, but also the long-term school and student outcomes that you would aim for as a fellow. So think aspirationally, but be specific about what you believe you could achieve. And then feasibility is important as well. Your proposal should be challenging, but it should not be too ambitious given the time period, resources needed, and your skills. So this is a big proposal, launching a school, restarting a school. You have to be very self-aware about what you are capable of doing and what you're not capable of doing. But also keep in mind that as a fellow, you're not going to be on your own. You're going to be surrounded by a team of people who have expertise in areas that you don't have. So also keep in mind that in your proposal, it's okay to talk about areas that you may not have a lot of experience in, but talk about how you're going to be leveraging the mind trust and leveraging the experience of other fellows and the community and policymakers to achieve the goal. This is not going to be a singular exercise. This is going to be you and this community working together. So just be aware of the things that you're good at, what resources and skills you're going to bring to bear, but also talk about how you're going to fill in the gaps where you may lack experience or lack expertise, or you're going to need a little help in these areas, because the self-awareness will show that proactivity, that you're already thinking ahead about the challenges. All right. And I always say too, when I say it should be challenging, you should have high expectations of yourself and of the students that you're going to be serving, but make sure it's achievable in the time frame with your skill set, the network and resources available to you, which will be numerous. Now, when you're reviewing your final statement of intent, always ask yourself, what would make the selection committee skeptical that I can launch or restart a school successfully? If there's any skepticism, you got to fill in the gaps. If there's some things you didn't address, if there's some details that you left out, I do think it's important to have other people review your application. Ask them this question. Pretend you're a selection committee member. What have I left out? What detail leaves open questions? You got to make sure that you're addressing all of the potential questions that the selection committee may have. So you kind of have to put yourself in their shoes and think about that. And these are also good questions to ask current and former fellows. If you're able to connect with them, what are some things that you didn't know about the fellowship that you wish you had known in the course of it? That can help you think ahead about the challenges that you would face as a fellow, and think ahead in your application about how you're going to address those challenges. Because I always say challenges and unknowns are okay. There always will be there, but you want to be prepared to explain how you will overcome them. And the more